In the last episode, I rebuilt the engine of my 1998 Toyota Tercel. Today, we make it drive, and also fix my mistakes from the rebuild. The engine was not running perfectly at this point. First things first, I got the seals I was missing, which means I can put the CV axles back into the car. And without the holes in the transmission, I can put new gear oil back in as well. So I put a tube into the transmission and started filling it up. This was the main thing preventing me from driving in the last episode. There was a few more things I wanted to tighten up before hitting the road. Number one, the car really needed new tie rod ends, so I got those installed and was about to go out for the first test drive. Like, I had the wheels back on and was about to start the car and drive it away. The car no longer rolled. Yes, somehow after putting the CV axles in the transmission, I managed to make the car completely immobile. Certified mechanic. Luckily, the problem presented itself rather quickly. If you look at the CV axle I put on there, there's this metal gear. That ring is for cars with ABS. And my Tercel could only dream of that kind of technology. So I just had to remove that ring, the clearance issues were solved, and everything was good. Time for my first test drive, which had a number of takeaways. Number one, the car does start and drive. It didn't do that before. Number two, I still don't really have any experience with manual transmission vehicles, as is evidenced here. And number three, I haven't done anything to the exhaust yet. There's no muffler, the exhaust is not attached properly, and it's very rattly. But this wasn't really much of a concern compared to how it was running. Below like 1500 RPM, it was definitely not running well. I basically had to keep my foot on the gas the whole time to try and keep the revs up while I wasn't moving. We shall now diagnose this issue. Before this project, I really didn't know what I was doing with the internal engine stuff. So I was just kind of assuming at this point that my DIY valve lapping job didn't work out and that I was gonna have to take the head off of the engine again. That was the part of the rebuild I was the least confident about, and the initial testing pointed to that being a potential problem. I did another compression test and got numbers of 150, 110, 75, and 150. Which is completely all over the place and really not good. So my next move was to borrow a leak down tester which would let me put air into my spark plug holes. What I've discovered here is with the leak down tester in cylinder 3, there is no point in the engine's rotation that air ever stops coming out of the intake except for on the exhaust stroke when it's coming out of the exhaust. So my intake valves are not sealing. This gave me enough information to do some research, and I discovered that my valve job was likely not the actual issue. The real issue was that I had no idea about lifter clearances. I never checked them, I never thought to check them. I didn't know anything about them. After pulling my valve cover off, I very quickly realized that the cylinders with higher compression had very little lifter clearance, and the cylinders with low compression had zero lifter clearance. My valves weren't leaking because of my lapping job. They were leaking because they never got a real chance to close. They were still being held open by the cams pushing on the lifters. My drawing kind of sucks, but quick explanation. The way the valves in this engine work is when the big side of the cam lobe turns around to the bottom, it hits a shim which pushes on the lifter, which pushes the valve stem down, opening the valve. Now when the bigger side of the cam lobe is not facing down and the valve should be closed, there should be a clearance right here. The process of installing my new valves has completely eliminated this gap. And if the camshaft is always pushing on the shim, that means the shim is always pushing on the lifter, which is keeping the valve always partially opened. This needs to be fixed. I used the feeler gauge to measure and write down all of the clearance numbers and set out to get these into the range that the service manual specifies. Now, the recommended way to solve this problem is to figure out what size of shim you need on top of the lifter and buy replacements that would make it the correct clearance. Now, I've already spent too much money on this project, so I found a sketchier and much less recommended way to make the existing shims smaller. And by that I mean I stuck them in a belt sander. All of the research I did told me not to do this, that I shouldn't do this. But I decided it was the option that made sense for me, considering I don't want to buy shims, and this would be very entertaining for my video to see if this would actually work in the long run. Now, I did not touch the top side of the shims that actually contacts the camshaft lobes. I only took material off the bottom side. I did this shaving down, reinstalling, remeasuring thing a few times until they were all within what the service manual said they should be. After that, I once again went to start the car to see if this made any improvement. And what a relief this was. Everything was immediately way better. It sounded much better, the car idled properly, the compression became consistent, and I really wanted to take this thing out for another test drive. And that test drive would end up having me smiling the entire time, because this thing, it actually runs good now. I finally felt like the months of work I was putting into this car was finally starting to be worth it. Starting to be, at least. The car still drove pretty bad. Not because of anything to do with the engine this time, but rather the suspension. It was completely not doing what it was supposed to. Look at this video going over a little bump. The entire car bounces up and down. Time to put new struts in. These things aren't really that hard to get out, but once you've got them out, you have to compress the big suspension spring to free them from the center of it. And yeah, you should not be able to push a strut down with no resistance. The only thing holding this car up was the spring. And that does kind of make sense to why it was bouncing up and down like it was being held up by a spring. The new struts actually do something, and I eventually got them installed on the car. And wow, this was a completely different driving experience. I can't describe how much better it was. And I ended off this day with the starter motor not working again. In a previous episode, I tried to fix this problem by just cleaning out the original starter motor. I maybe could have done something to fix that one, but I decided I just wanted it to be reliable, and I bought a new one. After I got it installed, it was immediately obvious that the old starter was struggling, because it immediately started way easier. Alright, the car is driving good, running good, I'm happy. Time to get that brake and oil out and do its first oil change. I took out the dipstick, which showed no oil on it. Well, that's not good. Anyway, let's drain it. Oh wow, that is completely black. Yeah, get subscribed because by the end of the next episode, I will have solved this last major problem with the car. But for now, it is burning oil at an alarming rate. I actually did a decently long road trip to confirm that this wasn't just a break-in thing, but it never got any better. There is a real major problem happening in this engine. But don't worry, I fixed it, and you'll get to see that happen next week. I also did film my road trip, which is another video I should be publishing in the future, so get subscribed for that one too. It was rough. I spent the same amount of money on gas as I did on keeping the oil topped up. Yeah, come learn what went wrong with the oil issue and what I did to fix it next week. Thank you for watching, and get subscribed. I'll see you then.